Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Out of the Park Development's YouTube channel. My name is Alex Murray, also known as AZ Axel, and today we are going to be doing a tutorial about player management, what that means for you as a general manager in regards to moving your players in your organization, managing injuries, viewing your minor leagues and international rosters. We will also be covering setting up your pitching staff, your bullpen, your batting lineup, your depth charts, and lastly, your pinch hitting and pinch running lists. We have a lot to cover, so if you've got your OOTP games open, let's go ahead and jump right in. For this video on player management, we will begin on the Organization tab under your team home screen. Originally, this tab would have been called Transactions for previous versions of OOTP. For the modern version, it is Organization. And we'll start in the Overview tab, which will display your Major League squads, minor league squads, secondary 40-man rosters, and if you have options, you can also be able to see your injured list, waivers, players designated for assignments list, as well as potentially, as you can see on screen, your Rule 5 eligible players, and even your untouchable and players on the trading block lists as well. This screen is going to be one of the biggest ways for you to be able to move players or manage players in your organization, promote them, demote them, and just overview all of the situations in your organization, such as players who are injured, players who need to be demoted or promoted, and also players who need to be assigned if they have been designated for assignment. To be able to drag and drop players is all you have to do to be able to move them. If you want to be able to promote somebody, all you have to do is simply drag and drop that player to the team of choice. If they are coming from your major league roster, you may need to option them. And if they are out of options, you may need to waive them and designate them for assignment. However, most rookies coming from the minors will be just fine to be put straight into your major league team. You will also want to be able to make sure that you manage your 40-man roster. Once that roster is full, you will not be able to add new rookies to your major league squad, so keep an eye on that. The Rosters tab is going to be basically a way to view a more distinct singular roster. This can be anything from your active roster to your secondary roster to all players in your organization. And this is a good way to be able to get the list down to a little bit smaller and review players in a more minute fashion. The injured list is going to be how you're going to be able to more minutely work through injuries. This will list all of the injured players on your organization, including any potential minor leagues. So if you have a long list of players, such as an MLB standard game may have, you may need to use the injured list tab to be able to view those and manage all of your minor league injuries and major league injuries as well. Now, in regards to injuries, we do need to mention a couple of things. Injuries come in many different types of formats and types of injuries, including stuff like, as you can, including sprains, broken bones, and sometimes even surgical requirements for pitchers. Those are the worst ones you can get for pitchers. People who are in red will be major serious injuries requiring those players to be taken out of play. They are not allowed to be used because their injuries are too serious. Orange is an indication the player is suffering a day-to-day injury or a nagging injury. These can sometimes become very bothersome if they do not go away quickly. They can actually become quite a problem if they are a nagging injury. But for most orange ones, they are very limited in time and they will be able to recover from them very quickly. If you have somebody who needs to be placed on the injury list, you will be able to select either a 15-day IL or a 60-day IL, and I do believe there's a difference. For hitters, I believe it is 10 days IL, and then also, again, 60-day IL. If you put a player onto your 60-day IL, they will be removed from your 40-man roster during that 60-day injured list period. So make mental note of that. If you bring a player back off of the 60-day IL, they will need to be re-added to your 40-man. One other thing of minor note, if you have a player who has come back from a 60-day IL stint, you will want to look into doing a rehab assignment for that player. Serious injuries that require a player being put onto a 60-day IL do need to have a rehab assignment to the minor leagues for the player to shake off what is referred to as rust, or to ensure the player has enough time to be able to get back up to full throttle or back to regular service. You will not want to have a player come off the 60-day IL and go straight back into full play time on a major league team. There is a chance that that will actually cause the player to re-injure themselves, potentially even worse than before. Minor leagues are going to be a way for you to be able to see just your minor league systems, and it depends on how many you've got in your system, but this will give you a good overview of your minor leagues if you want to see more details about the players involved in your minors, potentially their prospects or their development, as well as how they may be doing statistically wise in the course of the regular season. This is a good way to be able to micromanage your minor leagues if you'd like to be able to do that. And again, we have filters and all the other stuff that you have commonly on this screen, so you can do anything you'd like to be able to do filters and do different views to help you in that progress. The waivers and DFA page we will talk about in a little more detail, potentially in the finances or even other topics as well for different tutorials. But basically, if a player is out of options, they need to be waived and designated for assignment to be able to get cleared for the minor leagues. And that may be a problem, as that gives other teams in the league a chance to be able to claim them off of waivers. You may be able to pull a player back if they are claimed, but most of the time they are irrevocable. And most of the situations you will run into, the player, if claimed, will be claimed by the other team and put on their squad and taken away from you. Now, you will also lose their salary if they are a major league player, so some people may want to use waivers and the designating for assignment tools to be able to shop or see if a veteran or highly expensive player who is not performing well could be claimed by another team in the league, and that may save you some money. But again, be very careful who you waive and designate for assignment. You do also want to make sure that you do not designate someone for assignment too early. If they have not claimed or cleared waivers, my apologies, they will not be able to wait for the waivers to get done if the designation for assignment time limit or days left is 0. Once a player hits 0 days left for designation for assignment, they must be assigned. And that means that if they have not cleared waivers and they cannot be demoted, you would have to release them or put them back onto your active roster. So be careful about that. Upcoming free agents is a screen in which you can see all of your potential free agents at the end of the year from your organization. This will be minor league and major league level players, all listed on this screen. You will be able to see who's going to become a free agent at the end of the year, as well as the demands of the player if they wanted to do a contract extension. One minor little hint and note: if you do the actions button in the top right corner, you can offer all of your minor league free agents minor league contract extensions. Now, some players on your minor league systems may not be welcome to this idea, but if you have more than 20 or 30 minor league free agents potentially at the end of the year, you may want to use the actions button rather than offering every single player a contract one at a time. The international tab is going to be where all of your international scouting discoveries, as well as international free agents, the international amateur free agents, will be put into. These are players normally around the ages of 16 to 18 is how you normally find them. Your scouting directors discoveries will end up here, as well as, again, your international amateur free agents that you acquire during the course of the regular season by signing them for signing bonuses. They will stay here until they have hit 20 years of age or older, and you do have a limit of 50 for this international complex, as it is referred to as. Now, when the player hits 20, they will be automatically promoted to your lowest minor league team, if you have one. And this will help make sure that your international roster does not get too full. If your international roster does become 50 players, your scout will not be able to find more players. All right? So make sure you make note of that. Also, these players in this international complex cannot be traded. So you'd have to promote a player to be able to then trade them if you wanted to. Last but not least is your transaction log. This will list all of your roster movements. This includes trades, invitations to spring training camp, designations for assignments placed on waivers, demotions, promotions, options, assignments. The whole shebang will be listed on this screen. So if you want to review what you have done or see if you may have sent somebody down by accident, you may want to review this list. All right. Let's talk about pitching and lineups. This is going to be the second half of this tutorial, talking about how to set pitching pitching staffs and bullpens, as well as your batting lineups. Now, the pitching tab, as you see on your screen right now, will be able to allow you to change your pitching rotation down here in the bottom left-hand corner, as well as some rotation settings. You will be able to customize these to match exactly what you want as a manager if you are in control of your pitching staff. Certain GM systems or managers that hired into your organization. If you've hired a manager that has high control, it's a controlling manager, they may actually not give you control over your pitching rotation, your bullpen. So review who you are hiring and make sure that you get full control over this page. If you want to have control over it, you want to make sure that you do not hire a controlling manager. But this is where you'll be able to drag and drop players into your starting rotation, move them around if you need to. If you want to be able to make changes, you can absolutely do that. And then you can also set your bullpen for the different primary roles and secondary roles for these bullpen pitchers, as well as the usage options. Multiple different types of usage options are available depending upon the type of reliever role that you're setting up with. Closers, stoppers, and setups will have innings to be able to be selected for their usage options. Closers are the only ones, if I remember correctly, yes, closers are the only ones that can do 9th inning or later. But the setups and stoppers will range from the 6th inning on and be able to be used, and you can prioritize when you'd like to see them on this usage setting. The primary and secondary roles are going to be important in how the AI will use these pitchers when you are not in direct control in a baseball game. So if you're not in the 3D environment playing, the AI will revert to these roles that you have set up to be able to make the most out of your bullpen. You will also see that there are middle relievers, long relievers, specialists, and emergency starting pitchers as potential roles as well. Your middle relievers will make up the bulk of your pitching bullpen most of the time. You will usually have more of it than less. And they will normally range from a usage option of use more often all the way down to avoid high leverage. Long relievers are going to be used in games that are heavily in your favor or heavily not in your favor. These relievers are designed to eat as many innings as possible. They will come in only when your team is either ahead or behind by a large amount of points or runs. Specialists are going to be against left-handed batters or right-handed batters. These are people designed to go up against just one type of batter-handedness. They are very good against lefties, or they're very good against righties, and usually they are the opposite against the opposite-handed person. So a left-handed specialist pitcher would normally be very bad against right-handed batters. So make sure that you match up that handedness correctly. And I would also recommend that if you want to have a bunch of specialists in your bullpen, make sure that some of them are set to middle relief, just so that way you don't burn your middle relievers too heavily. Last but not least is your emergency starting pitchers. These are pitchers designed to start in a spot start situation. If your entire starting rotation is tired, the AI will use your emergency starting pitcher, if they are not fatigued, to be able to buy some time for a pitcher to become rested enough to pitch the next day. So it's always a good idea to have maybe one emergency starting pitcher on your squad, just in case. Now, your emergency starting pitcher could also double as your long relief pitcher. That would also be a good option as well, and good advice for people out there who want to have that. Let's move on to lineups really fast, and we'll end this tutorial there. So, your lineups have a couple of sub-tabs that we'll want to be able to review. This overview tab will allow you to be able to see all of the lineups against lefties and righties, as well as make changes immediately. You can also see your custom lineups at the bottom. If you'd like to be able to do any changes to custom lineups, you can also work through that in this page. The majority of players are going to be more familiar with the versus right-handed pitcher and versus left-handed pitcher tabs, as it includes the depth charts down below. The depth charts are going to be important in telling the AI who to play when you have fatigued players on the field. If someone needs a day off, this is how you're going to tell the AI who to start in their place. This is also how you're going to be able to potentially do stuff like defensive substitutions, or if you wanted to do platoons with 2 individual players, one very good against lefties, one very good against righties, or if you just wanted to see 2 players try to play evenly at a certain position. Say you had 2 excellent second basemen, you may want to have them split more time than less. So you can use the start drop downs to be able to indicate to the AI how often you'd like to see the utility 1 or utility 2 player come in to start a ball game. This is different than pinch hitting, defensive substitutions, or pinch runners. These are just players that are going to start when the person in front of them, the depth starter or the utility 1, needs a day off. So you'll want to make sure that you have set these up so that way your organization, and especially your lineups, have backups and depth to be able to give people days off. Fatigue can be a killer when half of your squad is too tired to perform at their utmost abilities. Again, as we talked about a little bit earlier, defensive subs are an option in this game as well. You can have these players come in late in the ball games. We'll talk about defensive substitutions a little bit more in our strategy tutorial and how to be able to finagle those to exactly when you'd want them. But if you've got a player who is a very good defensive player at a position but is not starting, you may want to consider having them as a defensive sub. A lot of people will do this for catchers. And this person will come in late in a ball game to be able to supply your team with better defense on the field. And again, we'll talk about that in your strategies tutorial later down the road. Lastly, let's talk about the pinch hitters and pinch runners. These are 2 separate lists, versus righties and versus lefties, that you can change to be able to indicate to the AI who you would like to be used as pinch hitters and when in the order you'd like to have them used. So you can actually set up certain people to be primary pinch hitters. That would be the number 1, number 2 spot versus, say, number 4, number 5, who are down the list. So you can try to prioritize certain individuals. That way, in case one of them is better as a pinch runner or a defensive sub, they are not used as a pinch hitter too early. Let's review daily lineups, and then our last one will be the graphical depth chart. Daily lineups are a way that you can set lineups into the future. If you see matchups against certain pitchers and you want to be able to capitalize on that, or if you know of a certain pitcher that is susceptible to home run balls and you want to put all your home run hitters against that pitcher, you can set custom lineups in this daily lineups page to be able to go against that pitcher and try to outmaneuver opposing teams. You can also set up your pitching rotations as well on this page. You'll be able to figure out exactly what you're doing against either right-handed or left-handed pitchers, and you should be able to, with the settings in the upper right-hand corner, be able to optimize this daily lineups settings and page to better suit exactly what you're looking for from this option in the game. So use this as you'd like to. A lot of people will prefer to just simply manage day in and day out, but for some, they love this ability to be able to customize their lineups every single day and really, really work hard to outmanage other teams. Last but not least, let's just briefly talk about the graphical depth chart. This is basically a way to view the depth chart back on the versus right-handed pitchers and versus left-handed pitchers tabs in a actual graphical interface. So you can see that we'll be able to see all of the players on our screen, who is the backups to each position, how often they are expected to be pulled into play. You'll be able to change these as well if you'd like to. So if you want to make any changes, this screen is also a way that you can come in, select the versus right-handed pitchers or left-handed pitchers option, and then make your decisions about the depth chart and how it will look in games. Now that covers a lot of ground regarding player management and OOTP. I do hope that this video was helpful for you in learning how to get started with out-of-the-park baseball. We will continue to upload more tutorials just like this one and other videos down the road, so please do subscribe to this YouTube channel, and I will see you all in the next one.